Welcome to the City Manager's Report. The City Manager's Report, a look at city updates and municipal news, and a preview of the next Oshkosh Common Council meeting agenda. Your hosts, Emily Springstroh of Oshkosh Media and City Manager Mark Roloff.
And thank you for joining us on GovTV for your City Manager's Report, your source for the latest and greatest news and updates here in our city of Oshkosh, as well as a preview of the upcoming Common Council meeting agenda. I'm your host, Emily Springstroh, joined by your City Manager, Mark Roloff. So welcome, Mark. Thanks for joining us today.
Great to be here, Emily.
So we're going to go ahead and dive into the hot topics for the first half of today's show. We'll take a little break, and then we'll return with a review of the Common Council meeting agenda for Tuesday, September 12th, 2017. So, first item that we want to discuss today, Mark, is a huge topic of conversation the last week or two here in Oshkosh, and that is the Lakeshore Golf Course. So why don't we just, before we get into the details, bring us up to speed on what's been going on so far. There's been talk about selling and not selling. Kind of just give us an overview of the situation here.
Well, this has been going on for a couple months because of all the speculation, and I know there was some concern about, why didn't we know about this earlier? And obviously, there was certainly speculation, but we didn't really have enough information to know what sites that Oshkosh Corp may be interested in the city of Oshkosh. So we never really had full information because as a private company, they can choose to keep things quiet and private and as they have a right to. But when they're dealing with potentially public land, then that changes the dynamics because when it's talking about public land, everybody has a right to know, and we certainly want people to know that. So we do economic development projects all the time. We submit proposals to the state if they're looking for somebody, and this was really no different because as we have slowly learned, this is a nationwide search that Oshkosh Corporation is doing. They're not doing a search of sites in Oshkosh.
Just because they're called Oshkosh Corp doesn't mean they're staying in Oshkosh.
There are plenty of great Wisconsin companies that have had a name in their community and then moved on with their headquarters. So we had to take that very seriously. So we started gathering information on sites as we do for any potential economic development project. Mm-hmm. And that included Lakeshore Golf Course. And people ask why? Well, because based on what we felt criteria might be for something of this nature, and we've had experience on these, we felt that we needed to collect, at least have that information, should it be available. And so that's what we did. But obviously, once you're in the public realm, people are aware. We knew you weren't going to be able to hide wetland delineators out there, so it became public then. And that certainly got people worked up about it. But we had to evaluate what sites may be viable for them without knowing their criteria because we still haven't been made fully aware of what their criteria was. But based on our experience with these types of projects, we started taking a look at it. And we felt we had some pretty good criteria that we had. And then we were made aware that if anything was going to happen, there were going to be contacts by a site selector. Companies hire site selectors to evaluate sites, take a look at possible incentives, anything related to a project. And when they hire somebody, they'll generally call you. They'll ask you to keep it on the QT, that type of stuff. Mm-hmm. We got no call at all. Mm-hmm. And I know people think that's a little bizarre, but when you get no calls, it causes me concern. And so I had to make a judgment call at that point. Am I going to just sit and wait for a phone call that may never come? And then I get asked, well, why didn't you do anything? So what I did was I reached out to Oshkosh Corporation and I sent them a letter saying, number one, we want you to keep your headquarters here in Oshkosh. Plain and simple. That was really the most important thing in there. But also, we understand that as a Fortune 500 company, they could look anywhere in the world, certainly anywhere in the country, and based on our evaluation of about 12 sites that we had identified, based on what criteria we thought might be. It was my opinion, and it was me who said it. It wasn't the council. The council has not taken any stand on this issue yet. Council hasn't been part of any of these discussions that were going on before all this happened. So I suggested that they consider Lakeshore Golf Course. And I guess my hunch was right, because right after I sent the letter, then I got a call, and the Oshkosh Corporation wanted to talk to us and at least express an interest and get the process started to evaluate that as just one of many sites. I don't know what the other sites are. I don't know if any are in Oshkosh or they're outside of Oshkosh. I don't know any of that. So I had to look what I believe to be in the best interest of the city of Oshkosh, and that's to retain a legacy company that's been with us for 100 years. So I came to the conclusion that the only competitive site in Oshkosh was that we owned was Lakeshore Municipal Golf Course.
And so thinking about that, the fact that, this may or may not be the only Oshkosh-based option that they're looking at for a new location. So just looking ahead in the future, if Lakeshore was not on the table at all and there were not any other Oshkosh locations they were considering, it's worth thinking about what Oshkosh Corp, has here in Oshkosh and what they'd be taking with them if they were to leave.
Well, and that's a big fear that I have. I mean, for example, if Lakeshore isn't feasible for them, I don't know what the other sites are. We've certainly been willing to provide information about other sites. The Sawdust District, to be honest with you, was a really nice site from my standpoint, but based on what we've now learned, the Sawdust District is too small. And so we have to think about those things. But the important things are access and visibility for a company like that. Think of all the big companies that are in Northeast Wisconsin. Visibility is very important to them. So those are the things we took a look at. The number-wise, they have about 450 jobs that, by our estimation, that are in corporate, not in defense or any of the other functional areas, but just corporate. 450 positions, and a potential to grow, as we now know, about 200 more jobs. That's tens of millions of dollars in annual income that gets pumped into our economy. You can't dismiss that type of thing. So certainly I want to make sure that we put ourselves in a good competitive position, but at the same time, this is a major issue for the community to address. And I understand that, and public input is going to be very necessary. I can respectfully disagree with anybody on this, but I felt that I needed to get this out there to get the discussion going. The discussion's going now. I'm very happy it's in the public realm, because then we can just have an honest discussion about these things. Not knowing was very frustrating to me, knowing that we could have missed out on an opportunity, and I didn't want that to happen. So now it's out there, and people can discuss this issue openly and freely, and we know that we're a possibility, but we're not the only possibility. And so we have to keep that in mind as we move forward.
Excellent. Well, thank you for clearing that up. I know there's a lot of information floating around out there. So the fear of Lakeshore being sold for fiscal reasons by the city is untrue. Now
I'm really disappointed that people would come to that conclusion. We had a discussion about some like TIF districts. TIF districts are totally independent of what this discussion is here. So for somebody to tie those two together, they're just being factually dishonest. And I think I need to set the record straight there that those are unrelated items and they shouldn't be mixed up.
Great. And so as far as timeline goes, what's next? More information to come?
My understanding is that Oshkosh Corp wants to make a decision by November, so we're going to await what the soil tests do, and then we'll take it from there. But it'll be public input, asking, get public input, because it is a park, and it is a proposed reduction in parkland. But I think it gives us an opportunity, if we're going to go down this route, to transform Lakeshore into something that the public can enjoy even greater, even with fewer acreage. And people are going to disagree with me, and I respect their opinion on that. But we have to have this discussion about what we want the future of Oshkosh to look like from a recreation and park standpoint, as well as from an economic development standpoint.
Excellent. Well, thank you for the information, and of course, we'll continue to keep the public informed as this unfolds and as more news comes about. Like you said, it is a public issue, and we'll make sure that we are completely transparent as this goes forward. So, moving on, we had a really cool event earlier this week, and that was the Oshkosh Public Museum's grand opening of the People of the Waters new exhibit, the new permanent exhibit at the museum. So, you were out there, Mark. Tell us about it. How cool is it?
It is such a changeover from what the previous, the basic model of telling the story of Oshkosh, our affinity with the water and how important that is. This goes much farther back in history. It's not just about the fur trapping days or things like that. This goes back to prehistoric times. This goes back to the years of Native Americans living and cultivating the land and really having such a much longer history than we've had as the city of Oshkosh. So a lot of cool interactive stuff. If you have a family, you want to bring your kids down there because it's not just looking at artifacts, it's actively, engaging yourselves and watching Oshkosh through time, the whole area. I think it shows 25,000 years ago, and take a sniff and all these.
You can even smell the exhibit.
Yeah, I mean, all these things. You get to walk on part of the exhibit. There are just so many interesting displays there that you can literally go back over and over again, and you'll get a different experience every time. So I'm excited. That's what you're going to walk into at the museum. The People of the Waters is going to be something that we're going to be able to enjoy for years to come. Different generations. You bring a kid a couple years later, it's going to be a whole different experience for that person. So
Yes.
real excited about
Extremely interactive
talking
exhibit.
about that.
We
Absolutely.
love it. And so we also do want to encourage people to come out and check out the Telling Our Story, the Voices of Native American Art Through History. That is also an exhibit that is open right now. It's really cool. So definitely check that out as well. Exciting programs happening at the museum all month long coinciding with the grand opening of the People of the Waters. So for more information, just check out their website. You can reach it through the city website, or it's oshkoshpublicmuseum.org. Next item that we want to do, that we want to talk about, is the Imagine Oshkosh Public Input Meeting happened last night, Mark, and maybe you can kind of just give us a little recap of that and some of the feedback that was received about the Central City area plan.
Well, you said it. This is about the Central City, not just North Main Street. This is all the areas that one person or another considers downtown. North and South Main Street, over to Oregon, going on both sides of Main Street, of North Main Street, Marion Road, all the South Shore area, the Pioneer. It's that whole area. And what do we want to envision for the future for this? And Halcyon Levine, which is the firm that we contracted with, identified each of those areas, some of the key catalyst areas, and for example, the South Shore area, the arena was identified as one of those catalyst projects that could really make a difference. And what this will do is, in each of these areas, it'll give the community an idea and potential developers an idea of what we're looking for. Once council gets and approves this, then it kind of says, look, this is what we endorse as our vision of the future for this. So get people to think along those lines. It kind of sets a standard, a high standard, a very good standard, but it's also an achievable standard, something that we can all look at and say, yeah, this is something I would like to see in Oshkosh. And we had great public input. There were probably 70 people there last night providing input. And so we'll just take it from there. The report, now that we got public input, it'll be about another month before the final report's written. So that'll go in October. Presentation to the council in November. And then if all works right with the council on it and they're comfortable, then they'll approve it in December.
Excellent. Well, it's great to hear there was such good feedback and such a great turnout, as that is so important in this type of project, and kind of finding out what people find that is the most important in these plans that affect them. So definitely looking forward to more information on that as that continues to unfold as well. And then finally, before we hit our question mark, we want to get one last blurb out there for our big 30th anniversary party coming up this weekend. And Mark, you will be there.
I'll be there. A shameless plug for Oshkosh Media.
Shameless plug.
Celebrating 30 years of excellence in government and public access. This is clearly, in my opinion, the best media services department in the state of Wisconsin. And we have the awards to prove it. But 30th anniversary, 11 to 1 on Saturday, September 9th, in the City Hall parking lot. Please come. We're going to have a lot of fun. Food trucks are going to be here.
Food trucks. We'll have food trucks. We'll have cake. We'll have interactive tours here. You'll have a chance to be on the radio, on TV. A lot of freebies and prizes, chances to win, and just like it's a really good chance to come together and celebrate and maybe see some people that we haven't seen for a while either. So
very exciting.
Yes, hopefully we can all make it out Saturday, September 9th, this Saturday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. We'll see you there. So moving on, it's now that time of the show where viewers have a chance to ask City Manager Mark Roloff anything they want about things that are happening right here in Oshkosh. So let's go ahead and take a look at our question mark segment. So question this week, Mark, is when will the Marion Road Water Tower be done?
Very soon. You didn't see a lot of activity this week because it's all very weather dependent. We had a pretty rainy week, so the progress wasn't as visible on the outside, but there's still a lot of work going on the inside, and here are some sketches, schematics of what the water tower looks like inside. The water itself is really stored up in the bulb of the spheroid of the tower, and there's a lot of mechanical stuff and lines and everything. So that's what they're working on, finishing up those things on the inside, while everybody thinks it's just a painting job, and primarily it is a painting job right now, but we are scheduled right now based on the progress we've made. We are ahead of schedule. Public Works believes we'll get this done in November. Shortly thereafter, after we get the water tower online, then we'll start to dismantle the old water tower, but that's got to stay up until everything gets tested to make sure the water is clean coming out of the tower and all that stuff. So we're real excited, and a project that's been in the works for a long time and it's looking like it's going to get done.
Well, thank you for the update on a very visual project, and I drive by it every day on my way to work, and it's fun to see. Each time it looks a little bit different, except for this week when it was raining, but. Yeah. Like we said, lots of things going on with that. So great question this week. Thank you for sending that to us on Facebook. If you'd like to send a question to Mark, send it to us on Facebook, on Twitter. You can email it to us, and he will answer it on the next episode of City Manager's Report. So we're going to take a quick break now here on CMR. When we come back, we'll dive into the Common Council meeting agenda for Tuesday, September 12th, 2017. We'll be right back on City Manager's Report.
Hi, I'm Jim Michelson, Chairman of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. The Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee is made up of 7 resident representatives from the City of Oshkosh. We strive to promote and encourage safe bicycle and walking as significant means of transportation in the City of Oshkosh. Our committee goals involve working towards the development of a coordinated system of safe and convenient bikeways and walkways and stimulation of public awareness through educational events. Our committee is tasked with reviewing and updating the bicycle and pedestrian circulation plan and recommend projects for funding through the city's capital improvement plan. We aim to make Oshkosh a bike and pedestrian friendly city and are making strides in protecting and growing the biking and walking population. The Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee and many other boards and committees who serve the City of Oshkosh are an extremely important part of our local government and community. We encourage you to consider serving on a city board or commission to help make Oshkosh a great place to live, work, and play.
Welcome back to City Manager's Report. Thanks again for joining us. Now we're in the second half of the show. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Common Council meeting agenda for Tuesday, September 12th. And before the meeting gets started, the Common Council will be meeting at 5 o'clock prior to that for a workshop on extraordinary service charges for special events. So Mark, kind of give us a little bit of an overview of what this is and what they're going to be discussing.
Well, back in March, you may recall that the council had delayed taking any action on increasing special event fees, the extraordinary charges, until we got some input from stakeholders, people who put on these events. So park staff, which is responsible for coordinating special events, met with a diverse group of stakeholders that put on the events. We were able to open up everything, show them what's going on with special events, the costs associated with it, and I think they gained a much greater understanding and can help maybe be ambassadors for what we're trying to do. The report that staff's prepared based on that input is now available. We're going to discuss it with the council. They've had the report for a couple weeks now, and just get feedback, and then hopefully the goal is to have fees adopted for 2018, that we get them out earlier so people know them and can start planning accordingly for 2018 events.
Excellent. Well, we look forward to some good discussion, great information in that workshop. And moving down into the council agenda, under the consent agenda items, we have approval of setting a public hearing date to vacate the alley west of South Main Street between 7th and 8th Avenue. And first question, where exactly is this? Not a lot of people even realize that it's there.
Well, as we were looking at it, we were having a hard time finding
Right.
exactly where it is. You know, this all has to do with the South Shore redevelopment area, and that light green area that you see between 7th and 8th, that's an old alley. And when that cuts through the middle of that big green space there, long term, it's going to be very difficult to sell that off or get anybody to develop it, because that alley just gets in the way. We'll eliminate the alley by vacating it. There's a process we have to follow. This is the beginning of that. But eventually, then we'll have one full parcel that we'll be able to market and seek proposals on eventually for somebody to redevelop that. And with things going on with the arena and the South Shore, I expect that we'll get some activity. This will make it easier for a potential redeveloper to be creative and do some good things there.
Excellent. Well, it's always exciting to get little updates from that area of town. Moving on in the consent agenda, we have one from Transit, and that's the approval purchase for 7 buses to New Flyer of America, Inc. for Go Transit. And there's a big number on the agenda, which I had asked about today, and it's not quite as scary looking as that $3 million number is.
Right. It's $3.25 million for 7 buses, and a lot of folks may say, "What do you mean 7 buses?" Funding for these transit vehicles comes very sporadically, and we've been bankrolling some transit federal aid, and we're going to have to come up with about $600,000 match to get to the $3,250,000. So about $2.6 million plus is coming from federal transit aid. So that's replacing 7 2003 buses. So these are very old. We had 10 of them. This will replace 7 of them. Then the other 3 will do over time as funding becomes available. We're really not going to purchase a bus until we get federal aid for it. It just doesn't make any sense to do it any other way. And generally, we get about 80% funding. So it's very important that we identify that funding when we can. So you'll be seeing some new buses probably into 2018. You're not going to see any this year, but you got to order them early and get going. So we're real excited that we're going to be able to replace our fleet. Our riders know what kind of condition these buses are in, and they're going to be 15 years old by the time they're replaced.
15 years doesn't seem like it's 2003, but it is. Those buses, they're getting old. We got to replace them.
Time flies.
So moving on to new ordinances, the approval of rental inspection fees as special charges. Kind of go over what this exactly means. We've been hearing rental inspection a lot, but this is a little bit of a change here.
Well, what we're doing is a vehicle to capture the fees for property owners, landlords who don't pay the inspection fees. And what we're doing is we're classifying the rental inspection fees as special charges. The taxpayers of the community should not be paying for these inspections. These should be for the businesses, and essentially rental properties or businesses. They should be paying for these fees. So this will enable us to put it on the property tax bill, which will improve our ability to collect on these charges, which are appropriately being charged to these rental properties, which are for-profit businesses.
Great. Moving on, under new resolutions, award bid to Vinton Construction for contract 1721 railroad transload site relocation. Now, this is an exciting one. You've been talking about this project for a few years now, so tell us about this.
This goes way back. All the folks on Allerton Drive who have been enduring the loading of trucks behind them. This is the final chapter in getting those loadings removed from the Allerton Drive area. This is something we've been working very closely with Watco, which is the holding company for Wisconsin and Southern Railroad. This is putting the loading facility where it belongs, in an industrial park, right in the heart of our industrial park. So if it gets noisy, it's noisy in the right place. And it's adjacent to the tracks, but Watco is going to build what's called a transload facility, which they will attract businesses from throughout the area that don't otherwise have rail access. Rail service is very cost effective, so they can have customers come there, unload their things there, they get loaded at the transload facility and get on the train and get delivered to where they need to go. We've been made aware that some businesses may relocate to our Southwest Industrial Park because of the existence of the transload facility. So we're very excited for what the possibilities can be. $1 million of this $1,762,000 is coming from the state of Wisconsin, what's called Transportation Economic Assistance Grant, a T grant. And these are meant to cover transportation-related expenses, and rail service does qualify for that. The city's cost of this $1.7 million is about $200,000 only, so a very small portion, plus a little bit of sweat equity that some of our folks are putting into it. So we're very happy that this project's happening.
Excellent. It's great to see this on the agenda. Moving along, finishing around fall time, you said?
Yeah, that's what we expect this fall.
Great. And then last items that we want to talk about relating to each other items, approval combination Class B license for Oshkosh Arena, and that also leads into the other item moving later in the agenda, process to allocate available liquor license.
Everybody may recall that the city or the redevelopment authority purchased Rec Lanes. They were going to be going out of business, so we purchased that. There was a liquor license there. We're recommending allocating that to the arena. The arena is planning to serve alcohol, and it's appropriate that we make sure that key project in the Sawdust District gets taken care of. But there are also some other liquor licenses available, and so later on in the meeting, we're also going to suggest to council a process that interested parties can say, we would like to be considered for a liquor license. What I envision is a supplemental application process so we know a little bit about what economic benefit that these businesses will do with the liquor license, and then the council can evaluate that and maybe come back at a later time after presentations to make a decision about that.
Excellent. So great information there. And then, of course, under future agenda items, budget workshop coming up September 20th at 5 p.m. You'll be hearing more about that and publications coming out in the future here for that. So that looks like it's going to do it. We are just about out of time here on CMR. So Mark, as always, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, happy to do it.
Again, the Common Council meeting is this Tuesday, September 12th at 6 p.m. You can watch it live on GovTV and on our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Or you can listen to it on 101.9 Oshkosh FM, which is also online and on the TuneIn Radio app for mobile devices. Make sure to like Oshkosh Media on Facebook or follow us on Twitter for all of your community and government programming and updates, or check out our YouTube channel for government meeting replays and past episodes of your favorite programs. And don't forget, if you have a question for City Manager Mark Roloff, send it to us on Twitter to @CityOfOshkosh, post on our Facebook page, or email at questionmark@ci.oshkosh.wi.us, and he will answer it on the next episode of CMR. So as always, thanks again for joining us on City Manager's Report, and we'll see you next time.